basic black ruffle wreath and decorate it with this bumblebee and ribbons and flowers. There's a little subscribe button down at the front of your channel. If you would, subscribe to our channel so you can see our next video coming out. Very easy to do. We chose the ruffle technique because it's just so easy for beginners especially to create a wreath like this and it come out just like this. So if I can do it, you can do it, I know. Okay, let's get started. So today we're going to use a 24-inch black pencil wreath, and if you'll notice, the work wreath frame measures 15 inches across, but by the time you get your materials added on here, you'll wind up with a wreath that measures 24 to 27, 28 inches. It just depends on what all you put in it. We're going to make our wreath today using the ruffle technique, and we're going to use a 10-inch mesh that's 10 yards in width, 10 yards in length. We're going to cut our ruffle pieces 10 inches in length. To make the ruffles, you'll see that the Deco Poly Mesh has a natural curl about it. It just, if you just let go of it, it'll just curl up like that. So you want to take your 10-inch piece and you want to turn it down on your table and you want to scrunch up through the center and make a ruffle. Notice that you want your selvage or the uncut edges on the outside, and you start scrunching up through the center on the cut edge. And we're going to do, that's your ruffle. Looks like a little bow tie. So you can hold that. If you're working by yourself and you need some help holding that, you can put it in a clip. We're going to do 3 layers of ruffles. And when you lay your ruffles, when you grasp them in your hand, sort of stagger them so they're not just stacked right on top of each other. You can start on the inside or the outside. We're going to start on the outside. Open up a twist. Take your cluster of 3 ruffles. Just lay it in that twist. And give that twist just a couple of turns. We're not going to secure it any more than that because we're going to go around it with some ribbons before we're done. So that attaches your first cluster. Now we're going to work all the way around the wreath doing a cluster of 3 ruffles on the outside ring, and then we'll do the inside ring. If it's easier for you to do 1 ruffle at a time and undo the twist and put a second ruffle in, that's fine. Just remember to undo your twist, lay your ruffle down, and then re-secure it. So let's do 1 more cluster. I chose the ruffle wreath technique because it's really easy, especially for a beginner wreath maker, because if you cut your ribbons, you cut your mesh in your 10-inch lengths, your wreath is going to come out uniform. It's a little bit easier maybe than doing the poof technique, where sometimes you can get, big poofs and little poofs, and it can be, a little irregular. But this wreath will come out the same every time you do it. It's a lot easier if you got somebody else working with you. Got somebody doing your cutting and making your ruffles while you secure them. Just going to give it a couple of turns, okay? Now we're going to work all the way around the wreath. And when you cut your mesh, we get asked all the time, what can you do to make the mesh stop raveling? And there's not really anything that I know of that you can do. The best thing to do is work with good mesh. This is Craig Botman mesh, and we think it's just about the best on the market. And a mesh with a tighter weave probably, will have less raveling, but all mesh ravels no matter what you do. Just know that at the end you're going to have to clip strings. It doesn't help if you cut with a rotary cutter. That doesn't stop the raveling any. It makes your cutting a little bit easier when you have a lot of cutting to do. So this wreath probably takes a little more time to make than a basic poof wreath. But like I say, for the beginner, it's just a really good technique to use. You should be able to get 36 pieces off of a roll of mesh that's 10 inches in width and 10 yards in length. Now sometimes you might get a roll and you might only be able to cut 34 or 35 pieces. Sometimes you might get a roll and you get 37 pieces. It won't take both these rolls. You'll have a little bit left over, but one is not enough. And you'll certainly have more raveling if you try to use a 21-inch piece of mesh and split it down the middle and make your ruffles, because the more cut edges you have, the more raveling you have. Hey Lola! And this is our wreath after we've gone all the way around it with 3 layers of ruffles in the outer ring and the inner ring. And this is just a basic black ruffle wreath. Now, you could decorate this in lots of different ways. The good thing about having just a basic color wreath, especially if you're not making wreaths to sell and you're just making wreaths for yourself, you can decorate this wreath for a season, and then you can take those embellishments off and then redecorate it for another occasion. Today we're going to decorate it with a bumblebee and some bumblebee ribbon, but then you could pull that off later and decorate it for Halloween, etc. The wreath measures about 24-25 inches now. Remember, we started out with a 24-inch wreath, but the work wreath frame was just 15 inches, but with the addition of our mesh, it's already up to 25 inches. So this is just a really good standard size wreath. Next, we're going to add some embellishments. We had about this much of a roll left over. It's probably less than half a roll, but that's enough to make a bow or to do something else with. But if you're the type that like to not have any remnants left over, you can always count the number of twists. On this basic wreath, there's 18 twists, and you could do the math if you wanted to use, every bit of your 2 rolls of mesh in that wreath. You could just do the math and cut your strips, a little bit longer than 10 inches. Also, you can take the remainder, and then when your wreath is finished, if you hang it up and you see a gap somewhere where you need to fill in with a little extra mesh, you can always make another cluster of ruffles and just attach it to a chenille stem and attach that cluster to the work wreath frame. I really want my bumblebee ribbon to show up well. So what I'm going to do, and like I say, you can put your ribbon strips on so many different ways. But we're going to, this is just a scrap ribbon here that I've cut 24 inches in length. And that way, I'm going to attach it about 6 inches from the end, from either end. And then you'll have a little loop of ribbon showing. And then I also took 2 other just scrap pieces of some 1.5 inch ribbon, and I cut these strips 12 inches in length. And we're just going to pinch those together, sort of crisscross them a little bit. Well, let's just attach this and see how it looks. Now, for right now, I'm not going to undo my twist because this is just my test to see how this is going to look. Okay. And then we can take this little cluster and attach right there. Okay? So, now I'm going to go back and I'm going to cut a piece of my ribbon 24 inches. And I'm going to do one cluster before I cut all my ribbon and make sure this is how I want to do it. We want to finish off the ends of that ribbon. So we're going to fold it again, and we're going to cut on that folded edge. And that will give us a chevron end to both of our ribbon strips. Okay, So this one we're going to do 12 inches. I think I'm about ready for some new scissors. Going to chevron those ends. Okay, now to attach our ribbon strip, we're going to start with our bumblebee ribbon first. We're going to grasp it about 6 inches from the end. We're going to open a twist. It's very important that you open a twist, make sure your ruffles stay in place, and lay that ribbon down, and then retwist. We're going to gather about 6 inches from the other end and go into the next twist, open it, lay that ribbon down on top of the ruffles, and then re-secure. Okay? That way, with that loop, you'll be able to see more of the bumblebee ribbon. So next, I'm going to take the green, pinch it in the center, take the black honeycomb. I'm just going to kind of angle that a little different. I'm going to open that twist back up. Going to lay it right on top of the bumblebee ribbon. And this time, this is our last layer, so I'm going to secure it with 3 or 4 twists. I like that. That green is going to pick up a little bit of green from our bumblebee too. Okay? So now we're going to just work all the way around our ribbon. I'll start in this next twist and put another 24-inch loop of the bumblebee ribbon. Well, I changed my ribbon pattern a little bit. I decided that I would attach the bumblebee ribbon in a twist, make the loop, and then attach the end in the next twist. Then I'm going to skip a twist with the bumblebee ribbon, and I added my cluster of my 2 1.5-inch ribbons, and then come on around and then do the bumblebee ribbon again, and then skip a twist and add a cluster of my green and black. Now, there's 7 twists around this wreath, so it won't work out, evenly. But anyway, if we need to go back and put another ribbon cluster, right over in here when we get done, we can. But I think we'll try that pattern and just continue that. Now, since I attached my bumblebee ribbon and this twist on the inner ring, then I'm going to attach it in this twist, kind of opposite from that cluster there on the outer ring. I've gone all the way around the wreath with the bumblebee ribbon, and when I got to the last twist, I did my bumblebee ribbon, and then I had my cluster of my other ribbons, and then I only had 1 twist left. So what I did was just take an 18-inch piece of ribbon and just made a little loop and secured it there, just to even out the bumblebee ribbons. Now, I think it needs more ribbon clusters. So what I'm going to do, I'm not going to add ribbon clusters back into my bumblebee ribbon. I'm going to create some just ribbon clusters, and I'm going to go in and attach them directly to the work wreath frame and just add in some more of this green and the black honeycomb ribbon. I think it just needs a little more. To make our extra little ribbon cluster, since we don't have a twist to attach them, we're going to take a chenille stem and just cut that in half with some wire cutters. And then we're going to take our ribbon, just pinch it in the center. Take the contrasting ribbon and just, crisscross it a little bit there. And we're going to take a chenille stem and go right over the top of that ribbon, bring it around to the back, and secure it. Give it a couple of twists, and see, you've made sort of a pick. And then you could just pick out an area on your wreath and just work your fingers down to the work wreath frame and put your ribbon cluster there, and then come over to the back and secure that chenille stem. When you're attaching your extra ribbon clusters, it will help if you attach it to the middle ring and not that outer ring. If you attach it to that outer ring, your ribbon clusters are going to just slip down to the back. So attach it to that inner ring or the middle ring, and that will help hold it in place. It also will help if you attach it where you have a straight post. That will help keep it from slipping and sliding. And once you attach your ends, you may want to just wrap those around the metal frame to keep them from just sticking out. Of course, if you had black chenille stems for this wreath, that would help too, but I didn't have any black ones. Well, there's our wreath after we've added our ribbon clusters. I wound up putting about 16 ribbon clusters of the 1.5 inch honeycomb and the striped ribbon, if I've counted correctly. You have about 4 yards left of these 2 ribbons, and you have about 5 yards left of the Bumblebee ribbon. Now this would really be good if you had some solid yellow ribbon to add in. I don't have any yellow ribbon right now, but I do have this yellow mum bush. So I think what we'll do is maybe make a cluster of balloons and put that on one side of the wreath and make a big bow to go around it, and then take our bumblebee and put him sort of at the top. Now, it's always good to kind of visualize where you want to put your bumblebee before you get ready to wire it in. So just find your place and just work your fingers down through the mesh. You want to wire the bumblebee in straight to the work wreath frame. Now, this is made of wire, and you do have some ability to manipulate it a little bit, but I wouldn't too much because the wings are glued on. But you do want to secure your bumblebee to the work wreath frame, and we're going to do that using some chenille stems. You could also use zip ties. We're going to take the mum bush and cut those individual limbs off. You need wire cutters for this. You need heavy duty wire cutters. I'll try cutting it. I may have to. Okay, there we go. Now we're just going to group them together in a little bouquet. You may not want to use all of them. You may only want to use, I would at least use 3. It's always good to use an odd amount of something, I think. There's 5 in the cluster, so you can try it with all 5, and if that's too much, go with a smaller cluster. It seemed like 5 was too many for the bouquet, so we're just going to use 3, and we're going to take a zip tie and secure that in a couple of places. Of course, we're going to cover that up with a bow that we're going to make. You want to snip those ends off of that zip tie with your wire cutters. Okay. Of course, these are wired, so you can, manipulate them and fix them however you want. That gives you 2 blooms left over. So probably what we'll do is just find a place maybe and put that up there close to the bumblebee. Next, we just attached our bow to the bouquet and then secured it to the work wreath frame. You just work your fingers through there and get where you can attach your chenille stem. You have to flip your wreath over to the back to attach it. But there we have our wreath with the bow attached. Now, we still have these 2 extra yellow flowers. You could always add them in at the top or leave them off, whatever you like. Okay, there's our wreath after we're all done. It measures about 26 or 27 inches in width. We did add the 2 extra balloons back at the top of the wreath, you know, next to the bumblebee, and just attach those to the work wreath frame. Be sure when you're all done to flip the wreath over to the back and make sure you don't have any sharp edges, you know, that might scratch your door or your wall, because we did use some extra chenille stems. Smooth out your ribbons and go back and clip your strings, and then you're all done. Okay? There's a little subscribe button down to your bottom right of the screen. Be sure to subscribe to our channel so you won't miss our next video coming out. And we would appreciate it so much if you share our videos with your friends. Please drop by and join us on Facebook and follow us on Pinterest. We have like 40,000 followers, and we just have tons and tons of wreaths and products posted there. Lots of decorating ideas. Okay? Thanks for dropping in. See you next time.